This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 266. 3 Ways You're Making Your Life Harder Than It Has to Be, Part 1, by Marc Chernoff of marcandangel.com.
Get ready to maximize your potential with Optimal Living Daily, the podcast that brings you the best in personal development and productivity every day of the week. Your optimal life awaits. Now here's your host, Justin Malik.
How's it going, Life Optimizer? Welcome back to Optimal Living Daily, where I read to you from some of the best personal development blogs I can find, with author permission, of course. And today's no different. I'll be reading a post from marcandangel.com, who is a massively successful and inspiring couple who blog about personal development, and they have books and courses too, which you can see on their site. But I'll mention a little more about that at the end of the episode, so let's just jump right in and start optimizing your life. 3 Ways You're Making Your Life Harder Than It Has to Be, Part 1, by Marc Chernoff of marcandangel.com. The greatest step toward a life of simplicity is to learn to let go. Imagine you had a ripe, juicy apple sitting on an otherwise empty table in front of you. You pick it up eagerly, take a nibble, and begin to taste it. You already know how an apple should taste, and so when this one is a bit more tart than you expected, you make a face, feel a sense of disappointment, and swallow it dissatisfied. Or perhaps the apple tastes exactly as you expected, nothing special at all. So you swallow without even pausing to enjoy its flavor, and you move on with your day. In the first scenario, that apple was disappointing because it didn't meet your expectations. In the second, it was too plain and unexciting because it met your expectations to a T. Do you see the irony here? It's either not good or not good enough. Now imagine you try this. Eliminate your expectations of how the apple should taste. You don't know, and you don't pretend to know, because you haven't tried it yet. Instead, you're genuinely curious, impartial, and open to a variety of flavors. You taste it, and you truly pay attention. You notice the juiciness, the grainy texture of the skin, the simultaneously sweet, tangy, and tart flavors swirling around your tongue, and all the other complex sensations that arise in your awareness as you chew. You didn't know how it would taste, but now you realize it's brilliant. It's brand new because you've never tasted this apple before. Mindfulness practitioners often refer to this as beginner's mind, but really it's just the outcome of a mindset free of needless expectations. The apple, of course, can be substituted for anything in your life, any event, any task, any social interaction, any person, any meal, any thought at all that enters your mind, anytime and any place. If you approach any of these with expectations of how it should be, they will surely disappoint you in some way, or be too plain and unexciting to remember. Just move on to the next disappointment or unexciting experience and the next, and so on and so forth, until you've lived your entire life stuck in an endless cycle of things you barely like or barely even notice. But if you approach each event, task, social interaction, etc. without expectations, and just see the event, task, social interaction, etc. at face value, then you will truly see it. You will truly appreciate it for what it is, and you will truly experience it like you've never experienced anything before, because you haven't. This is the art of making life easier. So now that we've cleared the air a little, let's take a closer look at 3 of the most common ways people use expectations to make life harder than it has to be. Number 1, you procrastinate to avoid your expectation of problems. Let's say you've been putting off a big project at work because you're dreading doing it. Maybe it's difficult and you feel overwhelmed. It's a lot of hard work and you're expecting to have to do lots of things you're perhaps not good at, expecting mistakes, failure, and lots of headaches. But in reality, you're the one giving yourself a headache. Realize this and let go of your expectations. This means you don't know how this project will go. You go into it with an open mind. You give it a try and see how it goes. And you learn from the experience no matter how it goes. Honestly, you cannot find peace by avoiding life. Life spins and requires us to spin with it. So instead of avoiding what must be done, take every task and experience as a challenge for growth. Either it will give you what you want or it will teach you what the next step is. And remember, finding peace in life does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, no challenges, and no hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things while remaining calm in your heart and mind. Number 2, hear that in tomorrow's episode. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled 3 Ways You're Making Your Life Harder Than It Has to Be by Marc Chernoff of marcandangel.com. And a part of this post reminded me of a quote that I sent out to my email list last week. And I heard it on a podcast. I don't know who the original author is, but it's There is no losing. You're either winning or learning. Something Marc said in this post was almost exactly the same, so that was interesting to me. Anyway, like I mentioned at the top of the show, Marc and Angel not only blog frequently for millions of readers, but they also have a course, Getting Back to Happy, and a book, 1,000 Little Things Happy Successful People Do Differently, both worth checking out. You can find them at marcandangel.com. And if you'd like to help support this show, I'd greatly appreciate anything you do to help keep it growing and going, financial or otherwise. I put a how to help page at oldpodcast.com that you can check out, and the direct link is oldpodcast.com/support. And I'd really appreciate it if you could take a look. Anything on that list goes a long way to support the podcast. And I think that does it for today. Have a great Friday and start to your weekend, if you're listening in real time, of course. And I'll catch you tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.
Hey, this is Dan from the Optimal Finance Daily podcast, which is a lot like this show, except more focused on personal finance. Justin handpicks the best posts he can find from blogs and authors like Ramit Sethi, Mr. Money Mustache, and more, and I read them to you 5 days a week. So if you enjoy this podcast, come on over and subscribe to Optimal Finance Daily too. And together, we'll optimize your financial life.
You've been listening to Optimal Living Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode, and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift, as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.